Moscow's demands are becoming more realistic, and Vladimir Zelensky concedes it's possible Ukraine may not join NATO. Those negotiators prepare to meet again. Kyiv residents have woken to the familiar sound of Russian shelling. The city is almost halfway through a 35-hour curfew after strikes killed at least 5 people on Tuesday.
It is difficult but important because any war ends in an agreement. Meetings continue. As I am told, the positions in the negotiations sound more realistic. However, there still needs to be more time for decisions to be in Ukraine's interests. Citizens of Russia, any of you who have access to truthful information should understand this war will end for your country in shame and poverty.
Let's bring in Imran Khan. He's across all developments for us. Imran is joining us from Kyiv. So, sounds optimistic, sounds of optimism rather, Imran, from both sides, and the Ukrainians and the Russians on the ongoing talks. What more do we know?
Well, the fact that they're continuing to talk into a third day is a good sign. Now, what we're hearing is that the talks are now divided into subcommittees where they're really hashing out the nitty-gritty of what they're going to be agreeing on. We know from Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president's comments about NATO, that perhaps joining NATO is now off the cards for Ukraine. That's a crucial step for Russia. Russia's always been worried about NATO being on its doorstep. Remember that Russia sees Ukraine as being part of its sphere of influence, and according to Vladimir Putin's statements in the past, he actually feels that Ukraine is part of Russia now. These talks are going to be ongoing. We're hearing that the kind of things they're going to be talking about are optimistic. We've also heard from Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister. Now, what he said is there is hope to find a compromise with the Ukrainian side. Negotiations between Russia and Ukraine are going with some hope for a compromise. He also said the Ukrainian foreign minister Dmitry Kuleba did not put forward any new ideas during the meeting in Turkey. That was a week ago. Now, Russia's already looking for ways to ensure the security of Russia, Ukraine and Europe, except for the expansion of NATO. So a very strong statement there from Sergei Lavrov. So these talks are ongoing. They're into a third day. They're down to the nitty-gritty. Whether we see a statement at the end of the day remains to be seen. It may well go into a fourth day. They may well have a break, as we've seen in the past, and go into a fifth round of talk. It's all to play for right now in the capital, between Russia and Ukraine, in Moscow as well. All of these people are going to be looking at what is happening in these talks to see exactly what kind of statement they can issue, if indeed they do issue one today.
And Imran, on the ground across the country, what can you tell us about the situation?
Well, let me just take you through some of the Deputy Prime Minister's comments of Ukraine. What she said is that on humanitarian corridors, Russia has actually been breaking agreements. They've shot at buses, settlements, collection points, and they've also taken hostages. She goes on to say that yesterday they captured an emergency hospital and took 400 people hostage. These include medics in Mariupol, and they're shooting from inside the hospital. She says it's a threat to the movement of people down humanitarian corridors, and they're talking to the Red Cross about that. In terms of the humanitarian corridors, the Deputy Prime Minister was very concerned that they might not be able to get people out today. Now, a number of people have left Mariupol through those humanitarian corridors in the last few days, but today it seems there is a question mark over whether people will be able to leave those humanitarian corridors. Here in Kyiv, we've actually seen an attack at 7 a.m. in the morning against an apartment building. No one was injured in that attack. It follows attacks over the last couple of days in North Kyiv against residential buildings there. And ongoing is that frontline violence between Russia and Ukraine in the Ukrainian territories of Bucha, Irpin, and Ostomol.
Okay, thank you so much. Imran Khan is reporting from Kyiv.